This is Ask Governor Murphy, a co-production of WBGO, WNYC, and WHYY. I'm Nancy Solomon. Tonight we'll talk about the election results and what we can expect from the governor's last 10 weeks in office. Listeners, call us with your questions for the governor at 844-745-8255. We'll also be reading your questions on social media using the hashtag AskGovMurphy. The number again, 844-745-8255. And we're joined now by Governor Phil Murphy. Good evening.
Good evening, Nance. Thanks for having me, as always.
We were just talking, you've just come back from Mexico City.
Yeah.
Sounds like you had a good trip.
We did. In fact, I might have seen you on a plane there, coming or going.
I wasn't going to go there, but yes, you
yes,
did.
You did. Yeah, it was our 14th and final international economic mission. New Jersey sells incredibly well around the world, and we've got a massive Mexican diaspora, over 200,000 strong. In fact, they are one of the few countries that actually has a consulate covering New Jersey in New Jersey. Most of them are in New York, covering a handful of states. They opened a consulate in New Brunswick 2 years ago, and they're terrific. Mariana, a dear friend, is their consul general. Just really good. You know, a lot of government to government, including a long meeting with the foreign minister, jobs, investment, business, higher ed, and then some cultural stuff. We toured some Aztec ruins. We saw the very famous Azteca football stadium where the first match of the World Cup will be played, and of course the last match will be played in Jersey. So it was a short trip, one city only, Mexico City. I had been to Mexico, never been to Mexico City, and it was a fabulous, productive, eye-opening mission.
Do you see a difference in this during this new Trump presidency when you travel internationally and you talk with other elected officials from other countries? Does it feel different? Like, is there a sense of conflict going on?
I'm not sure always conflict, but it's different. So we did a big one to India about a couple of months ago, and Mexico, kind of for similar and also for different reasons. National policies come up center stage in every discussion, particularly a government to government or a private sector discussion. I should also add, Mexico we have 50 states, they have 32. A bunch of them, either with principals or representatives, came to meet with us in Mexico City. So we had a good sense of the country, even though we were in one city. But yeah, visas, the border, tariffs, they're coming up a lot in meetings like that. India, we had the student visas, then the H-1B visa, and the tariffs were coming up there as well. The USMCA is up for review next year, which is the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement. It's the trade agreement that succeeded NAFTA, so that's a big topic of discussion. I think it's largely been very successful, and unlike NAFTA, it has a lot of labor provisions, which NAFTA famously did not, or infamously did not. But the answer is, it's different, and you can't escape a conversation about tariffs, or in Mexico about the border. That's just part of the fabric and part of the discussion, not surprisingly.
Well, it was quite a week for you. You leave on Wednesday night for Mexico City, and on Tuesday, you must have been pretty happy and relieved with the election results, a 13-point win for Mikey Sherrill, and the pickup of several Democratic seats in the state legislature. There's been a lot of armchair analysis in the last week, but I'm curious what you're thinking about it.
Yeah, a big night for Democrats, beginning with Mikey Sherrill and Dale Caldwell, her lieutenant governor. By the way, two superstars, and folks probably know Mikey a lot better than they know Dale, but they're both stars. And look Dale up. But a big night at the top of the ticket, right down through the ballot, picked up, I think, 5 assembly seats, including in districts that are not necessarily regular home games for Democrats. So you picked up 1 in the 2nd, which is principally Atlantic County, 1 in the 8th, which is principally Burlington County, 2 in the 21st, which has a big anchor in Union County, and then the 25th, which was a one that we've been sort of wargaming for years, and one seat came home. That's not insignificant. big margin for Mikey, big turnout. And by the way, a big night for Democrats coast to coast. You had New Jersey and Virginia governors. You had down ballot important races in Pennsylvania and Georgia. Big win on a proposition in California. Obviously, a big night in New York City. And I think people have said, okay, why? I think it's a combination, most importantly, of the talent that Mikey and Dale bring to this and the vision that they bring, what they have talked about, what they intend to do if elected. Secondly, I think you had, like my first run, I think you had a big, this ain't what I signed up for in Donald Trump's America. So you had a lot of folks who look at whether it's a wrecking ball in the East Wing or people just indiscriminately workplaces raided and people dragged out for no cause or tariffs that are leading to inflation. So that was a big chunk.
By masked federal agents.
By masked federal agents, absolutely.
It's a key detail.
Cory Booker, to his credit, is trying to lead a better resolution there. I think selfishly, personally, I'm not patting myself on the back. I think it is somewhat also a validation that we've been for the past 8 years. We've been taking the state, broadly speaking, in a direction that people like. Micah will do things her own way for sure. She'll do probably a good amount of what we've been doing and a good amount of her own stuff. But broadly speaking, it's in the sort of arc of history sense, it's in a similar direction. So I think those are some of the components that I think contributed to it. And we wish her nothing. We wish her and Dale nothing but the very, very best. She's a superstar, and so is he.
Listeners, do you have a question for the governor? We'll take your call at 844-745-8255. The number 844-745-8255. Now, I wanted to ask you about, at this point now, Democrats in the state General Assembly have a supermajority.
Yeah.
And, my father always taught me the famous line, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it does. I just wonder, obviously it's a victory for Democrats, but is it really a victory for the citizens of New Jersey to have such a lopsided supermajority in the assembly?
That's a good question. I think it is the answer. And I think in particular, if you look at the competing visions, whether at the top of the ticket or in those assembly races that I just mentioned, boy, I'll take the vision of the winners any day of the week. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't let this go to your head, right? You can't let the margin of victory at the top of the ballot or the majority in the legislature go to your head. I am highly confident we've got an outstanding speaker, outstanding Senate president, although everyone knows the Senate, other than one special election, Benji Wimberly was not on the ballot on this trip. I have complete confidence that they will handle that mandate responsibly. But again, I come back, what was the vision that either Mikey and Dale had versus the alternative or those assembly members had? And I'll take that vision any day of the week, particularly given they've got really strong leadership in both chambers.
All right, let's go to the phones. We have Mikey in Montclair on the line.
I only know one Mikey in Montclair.
Mikey, you're on the line with the governor.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, Governor. I'm a longtime listener, first-time caller. And I just had a question. I was wondering if somebody was interested in being the next governor of New Jersey, what advice would you have for that person?
Mikey, as you probably know, if you've listened before, and I know your husband tells me he listens, we try to get back to all our callers within 24 hours. So I'll have Dennis Zeveloff give you a call tomorrow morning. No. Sorry. I assume you must be in Washington voting. Is that where you are?
I am. I'm in the middle of it. Yeah, we're fighting hard for health care, but it's just not looking good for reasons I still can't quite comprehend. Why you'd want to rip healthcare away from people. Over 450,000 New Jerseyans could see their rates go up exponentially. It's really tough, but we'll keep up the fight. And I know you have ideas too on just how to continue to keep people whole in New Jersey as we fight some really bad stuff coming from Washington.
Amen. You're doing the Lord's work. And all kidding aside, what a treat to have you call in.
I want to hear the piece of advice.
Yeah. Well, first of all, as Mikey knows, this is the job of your dreams. I mean, this is an extraordinary responsibility for sure, but you've got 9.5 million people looking up to you as the chief executive officer. And that is both humbling. It's a huge responsibility, but it is incredibly joyous. It is the position of a lifetime. And one of the coolest elements, I think, Mikey, and you and I have talked about this, is, but by the way, it's not like you don't know, Mikey knows the state cold, right? So she's been all over the state, and she's obviously represented the 11th district for many years with great distinction. But the part I love the best is getting out there, getting out and meeting the people where they are, up and down the state. That is far and away the coolest part of the job. Obviously, there's huge policy initiatives that will change the state for the better. There's no state like ours, but there are no people like our people. And that part, to me, I was a guest lecturer at a class last night, and somebody said, what part of the job do you like the best? And I said, right here. 30 or 40 college kids, in this case at the Eagleton Institute in Rutgers. So, Mikey, you're going to be awesome. Dale is going to be awesome. It'll be a great experience for your family, and I can't wait to see you take New Jersey to new heights.
Thanks for the call.
I really appreciate it, Gov. Thanks so much. Thanks, Nancy. You guys take care.
You too, Mikey. See ya. Good luck down there.
And I didn't even get a chance to ask. I mean, would you recommend doing a public radio call-in show to the new governor?
I should have said that. So I have said to her, she and I met the morning after the election, and she and her husband, Jason, and Tammy and I had met between the primary and the general. But I said, there's a list of things that we do on a regular basis. And all kidding aside, this is one of the ones on that list that I think has to be sort of put in cement. Don't think that I'm straying from our strong relationship, but both the radio and TV version are really rewarding.
You've warmed up over the years. I think when we first started, you seemed pretty like, that you hated it. And
that's just not true. We were in a studio, so that was a little bit more like you felt like you were in a formal glass and people looking through. Now we're not exactly knocking beers back, but this is a little bit more of a casual, informal setting.
I think it took time to develop that. But I recall it made me quite proud when at an off-the-record, I think I'm allowed to say this, at an off-the-record Christmas party that you do for the press at Drumthwacket, that you, in your remarks to the whole group, you said that doing the show was like a sharp stick in the eye.
Yeah, which
so I was very proud of that.
Yeah, I say it differently. I say it's being up on the wire with no net.
Yeah, well, it's that too. Live radio.
Live radio, man.
Okay, so let's talk about, actually, before we get started on the lame duck session, let's go to a question from social. We have David Mathau here from WHYY and WBGO.
The David Mathau.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Governor, and good evening. Governor, this is a question from Jennifer in Morristown. She says, Governor Murphy, why have you not yet signed the smart solar permitting bill that was passed by the legislature to adopt a phone app for approving rooftop solar and save households and installers critical time and thousands of dollars? Solar, as you know, Governor, is the least expensive and easiest solution for the climate crisis. Yet, she says, bureaucratic hurdles make it exceedingly difficult for households to install and afford. Jersey has the third slowest solar permitting timelines in the country, according to Jennifer. And in conclusion, she says over 20% of residential solar projects that apply for permits are canceled, mostly due to permitting difficulties and red tape increasing installation costs by between $3,800 and $4,500, putting it out of reach of many households.
So it's Jennifer in Morristown, right?
Yeah.
All kidding aside on this one, Dennis Eveloff, our head of policy, will follow up after he talks to Mikey tomorrow about any advice. I'll get Dennis to follow up with Jennifer. On the specifics of the bill, we support it conceptually, and we support anything that facilitates renewables as a general matter, and we're, as I say, completely on board with it as a conceptual matter. Our teams are just trying to make sure they're running the traps on the specifics of the bill, including any health and safety issues that we have to make sure that we're not tripping over. So that's the first point I make to Jennifer. Secondly, I'm a little discouraged to hear about the third slowest, because we have one of the largest embedded capacity of solar power of any state in the nation. I think I know we passed through 5 gigawatts earlier this year. We've got a permitting czar, Chuck Richmond, who is a veteran of state government, who is literally in a category of one as the best guy out there. In fact, Chuck and I and Jacqueline Suarez, our DCA commissioner, had a great Zoom, 3 weeks ago with an AI permitting company, which was it's a cool concept because it does not cut any corners. It accepts what your parameters are. And ours are very high because we're the most densely populated state in America. You got to get the environment right. So they accept it. They're not in the business of cutting corners, but then they shrink timelines dramatically. So we're trying to figure out whether or not that's a horse that we can ride. But I will get Dennis to follow up with Jennifer. But conceptually, anything that advances the ball on renewables, conceptually, we love that. Again, on the specifics of the bill, bear with us because we got to make sure that the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, particularly in health and safety stuff.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
All right.
Let's go back to the phones. We've got Michael from Ocean Township on the line. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you, Nancy. Good evening, Governor. As your tenure comes to a close, will you continue to support New Jersey's veteran community and work with Assembly Persons Murphy and D'Angelo on advancing ACR 58, along with Senators Singleton and Cruz Perez on SCR 81? These are identical bills that are stuck in committee, and we ask that you add them to the lame duck priority. These bills are for a constitutional amendment to increase the amount of the veterans' property tax relief, which has been at $250 for a number of years, to $2,500. Now, they'll be phased in over 4 years if these bills pass and come to your desk for signature. With New Jersey's historic budget surplus projected at $6.7 billion, this property tax deduction for our veterans would be less than 3% of the surplus. As you're aware, New Jersey is one of the most populous states in the Union, but one of the smallest veteran populations. As a Monmouth County resident and commander of the Disabled American Veterans, Fort Monmouth Memorial Chapter 29, we have garnered bipartisan support and co-sponsorship for these bills to include Senators Gopal, District 11, O'Scanlan, Republican from District 13, along with Assembly Persons Donlin and Peter Paul, Assembly Persons Flynn and Schaffenberg. But we cannot get these bills out of committee and to the floor for a vote. Currently, we have
Thank you, Michael. Let's get a answer for you from the governor.
Yeah. Hey, Michael, thank you for this. God bless you, and thank you for your service to our nation. I'll talk about the bill, and then I want to talk more broadly. We don't, you probably have heard over the years that we don't sign on specifically to bills that are not yet on our desk. So please bear with me on that. Conceptually, helping veterans make their lives more affordable is center stage on what we care about and what we stand for. So as a conceptual matter, making life more affordable for veterans is right in our wheelhouse. So you'll bear with me in terms of where things more specific than that. In fact, I'm going to ask Emmy Kispe, who runs all of our outreach, to give you a shout within 24 hours. If it's not out of committee, the work, I would say, Michael, and I'd like to talk about veterans maybe after the break.
Yeah.
But if it's not out of committee, that's not me. You've got to work with those legislators to sort of strategize on how it gets out of that committee.
Michael, we're going to come right back to this after a quick break. We'll be back in 1 minute.
You're listening to Ask Governor Murphy, a co-production of WBGO, WNYC, and WHYY. Got a question for New Jersey's governor? You can call us at 844-745-8255. That's 844-745-TALK. Or pose your question on X or Facebook with the hashtag AskGovMurphy.
I'm Nancy Solomon, and we are live with Governor Phil Murphy, and we are talking about veterans and the property tax break that our last caller, Michael, brought up.
Yep.
I mean, 250 is not much of a break given what seniors get now and what
Sure.
Anchor has.
You can stack all those, by
Yeah.
the way. So that's an important note. I also want to say again, Michael, I'm going to get Emmy Quispe on our team to follow up with you. But my team reminded me that we have done a couple of things already. The 250 used to only be for combat veterans. We extended that to peacetime veterans. We increased the income tax exemption from $3,000 to $6,000 in 2019. And then we do have a very significant exemption if you are 100% permanent and total service connected disability. But again, I'll have Emmy follow up. Let's talk more broadly. We had a couple of incredible veterans ceremonies Monday at the governor's mansion and Tuesday at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Homedale. And they were both emotional. The one yesterday had hundreds of people inside because it was so cold inside that museum. By the way, folks, visit that museum. But we talked about a lot of what we've done already. I mentioned some of the tax steps that we've taken. We promised 21 Veteran Services offices, one in each of our counties, which I'm proud to say we've done. We'll put millions into programs on homelessness and mental health and job creation. Yesterday, as part of our clemency initiative, I announced 11 veterans received a pardon yesterday. So we've done a lot in and around veterans, and it's never too much with veterans. Any group of people, any individual who's willing to lay their life on the line to defend our nation and our freedoms deserves everything we can send their way. And I'm proud we've sent a lot toward our veterans. There's always more work to do, as Michael points out, whether it's property tax relief or in some other area, and we will stay at it right through to the end.
Now, this comes up over and over again where there's an issue that you support and you say you'll sign a bill when it gets to your desk, but it gets hung up in the legislature. In this case, what's holding it up? It doesn't seem like that big of anybody would object to it.
Yeah,
somehow.
On this one, I don't know. I'll try to come back to you and let you know. Emmy's as good as it gets. She'll try to run the traps on this, and we'll see. As you say, it's kind of hard to be against veterans, right? And as Michael said in his question, I also went out yesterday and wished a lot of folks to have a blessed Veterans Day. It's bipartisan. You serve our country. Nobody's asking if you're a D or an R. So it's both sides of the aisle, typically with support for some of the steps we've taken. Again, we've done a fair amount of stuff here, and God willing, we can continue to do more.
Listeners, we're taking your calls at 844-745-8255, and we have a caller, Rashid from Newark, on the line. Hello, Rashid.
Hey, Rashid. Rashid, you there? I really can't hear you.
No, we can't. Let's let our engineer. Oh, there you go.
There we go.
There we go. Governor, I wish
Hey.
you and your family all the best. And you stay safe. and you got my vote any day, brother.
Thank you very much. Bless you.
I guess you're
And
going to have to run
another
for
thing,
president.
Governor, yes, we're looking forward to that. Another thing, Governor, two items I failed to mention. Do you know if they're going to finish up the anchor program once Ms. Mikey's in office? And number two, I've been having a problem with getting in on the website for the Just Took Ill, and I've been trying to go up on the website regarding the not the unemployment, but the disability.
So sorry, website for unemployment disability, did you say, Rashid?
Disability, yes, I just said Ms. Took Ill.
Okay.
Let's address that because we're having trouble
Yeah,
hearing
yeah.
him.
So Rashid, real quick, thank you for your good words, my direction. It means a lot. Secondly, I'm going to have Rob Field, my colleague, follow up with you within 24 hours. Thirdly, I can't speak for Mikey or the governor-elect in terms of her policies and budgets and whatnot. I will say Anchor has become a wildly successful property relief program. And so I'll leave it at that. Obviously, Mikey will take the baton from me on January 20, but it has been wildly successful. And on the website, I'll ask Rob to help you navigate that if it's okay. And again, he'll get to you within the next 24 hours. I should have said that I've got both Maggie and Steph with me on my team, and they will make sure that all these connections and follow-ups happen.
Thank you for your call, Rashid. So let's talk about the lame duck session. This is now we move into that territory.
What a name, right?
I
Lame
love
duck,
it.
right?
And we move into that territory where you don't have to run for re-election again, and you can work with the legislature before, what's your last day exactly? January what?
Interestingly enough, January 20, which is what it
Okay.
is for a president
National.
and rarely is for a New Jersey governor, but it is this year.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the questions I have sort of a whole list of things that you've either talked about previously or that I've read about are things on the agenda. Clean energy. Environmentalists want a bill that was proposed 2 years ago to mandate clean energy. So we're talking zero carbon emissions by 2035.
Yep.
There's a new version of that bill that makes the standard a little more flexible, I understand.
Yep.
So besides the oil and gas industry, who doesn't want clean energy?
Yeah, I mean, we are pretty vocally supportive of this. Again, I'm always in that little bit, broadly speaking, supportive. I don't want to get too detailed until something gets to our desk, but this is one that's at the end of the spectrum where we have been deeply involved, and we support this bill. On
a scale of 0 to 5, how much of a priority is it?
Oh, it's
for you?
high. It is high, without question. There are a couple of big energy bills floating around. This is at or near the top of the list. Now, a lot of the lame duck, you kicked us off into this, which I like. A lot of the lame duck is in the context of talking about legislation. I do want to say, I think this came up either last time or 2 times ago, there are non-legislative stuff that we are really anxious to do, and I'll give you 2 examples. One is to continue our clemency initiative. I mentioned to Michael that I issued 11 veterans pardons yesterday, but on Monday I issued 29 pardons and 19 commutations. That's not going to be the last you hear of me in that process, and that's an executive action. Secondly, we've been wildly successful at retiring medical debt for pennies on the dollar. Literally, $2 million out in exchange for $200 million of debt reduction. I would hope would have another several tranches of that. So I don't want to ignore the legislative priorities, but it's not entirely in the legislature. Appointments are a big deal. Many of those are advice and consent. Obviously, judges would be the best example. There's a whole bunch of them that are direct appointments from the governor. Both of those will be priorities, in addition to bills like clean energy and other initiatives.
Okay, let's squeeze in a question from social before we go on the lame duck session. David Matha, what do you have for us?
Hello, David.
Hello again. And Governor, this is from Sung Kwan in Fort Lee, New Jersey.
Okay.
He says, will you support the Immigrant Trust Act? Is there a reason why you have not pushed for enacting the legislation so far? And maybe along these lines here, you can describe to everybody, remind us, we have the Immigrant Trust Directive,
Yep.
but the Immigrant Trust Act is pending.
Correct. And it's Sun Kwong, I think is what you said.
Sung Kwan.
So Sun Kwong, I will get, again, I'm going to probably ask Emmy Quispe to reach out to you if that's okay. And again, if I could ask Maggie rather, and Steph to help me out there. So it's not as though I've necessarily been for or against. I have been firmly of the opinion that the Immigrant Trust Directive has worked and worked really well. It's been challenged in the courts, including and has stood up successfully, including on behalf or by Trump-appointed federal judges. And it's a more for those who aren't familiar with it. It's more complicated than I'm about to explain. But the central magic, if you will, of this directive is that by the way, it's a big reason why we're the safest state in America. It's not the only reason, but it's a big reason. If you are in New Jersey, you're a resident in New Jersey, and your immigration status, I'll call it, is incomplete, you have every right to walk up to a public servant, a member of law enforcement, anybody you choose to, and say, listen, I saw the bank get robbed and that's your guy over there, without any risk at all that public servant or law enforcement officer will challenge your immigration status.
But isn't a big part of it also that local law enforcement is not supposed to be in the business of helping ICE arrest people unless there is a crime being alleged?
And largely correct. So we are in the business of law enforcement, of hunting down criminals. When I say we, I mean the collective we, the state police, the county sheriffs, the local police, all the various other NJ Transit, et cetera. We're in the business of hunting down criminals. This Immigrant Trust Directive is a huge weapon in that endeavor. We're not and by the way, we work with ICE in many cases, probably daily, with criminals, with folks who have overstayed their case got adjudicated negatively. They're still here. They claim they were on a tourist visa. They're not. We work with ICE, most importantly, with the criminal class. We are not in the business of nailing somebody for jaywalking. We're not indiscriminately walking up to people and just sort of going after them for no probable cause. So back to the Immigrant Trust Directive, it's really worked. So I understand the interest in Sung Kwong has raised, hey, why not put that into statute? I get that, but there is a little bit of, if not a lot of, an element of it ain't broke, don't fix it, particularly in this current day and age. But again, I'll have Emmy follow up with Sung Kwong.
Okay, let's take another call. We have Maria from Mercer County on the line.
Hey, Maria.
Hello. Hi. So we've all had to witness the destruction of all the ash trees over the last 10 years. I mean, we have a farm and we have no ash trees left on our farm, even though we tried to protect them. So nobody's been able to do that. So instead, we have the power companies that took down half of the trees to stop them from falling on the lines. But what they left was the husks of these dead ash trees and other trees all along our roads. And our township has been pretty good about trying to get them down, but they can't do the main thoroughfare that's around from Washington Crossing to Lambertville, which is supposed to be a historic and tourist site. But we have these horrific, ugly, but also painful to look at husks of ash trees lining 29 River Road. And everybody in the township is told, well, we can't do anything because it's state road. So I'm asking, as a state road, can they take care of Route 29 River Road and all the state roads that have these dying ash trees? Not only are they just so sad to look at, but a friend actually they still fall. Eventually they're going to fall. and one fell, and a friend, she was fine, but her car was totally smashed.
Oh,
Wow.
God.
Just in time for the 250th anniversary
Good
of the
Lord.
American Revolution.
Jeez. So, Maria, you asked the question, can we do something about it? The answer is I certainly hope so, based on that description. And by the way, that's one of the most beautiful parts, never mind the state of the country. And obviously, as Nancy alluded to, one of the most historic
Yes.
parts. Maria, with your blessing, I'm going to ask our great Commissioner of the Department of Transportation, Fran O'Connor, to call within the next 24 hours and see if we can sort a better way forward. If I may use this, so Maria, period. I'm going to get Fran to reach out to you and see what we can do here. It's discouraging. Only you brought up the 250th. We are throwing so much into the 250th, both programmatically and reinvesting in infrastructure and rehabilitating old structures that we're incredibly proud of. We're trying to steal the narrative back from Boston and Philadelphia. After all, more battles were fought in New Jersey than in any other state. So in that context, it's, oh gosh, it's kind of tough to hear this, given all that we're doing. We had Ken Burns in, as you know, last month.
Yeah.
Huge, or 6 weeks ago, huge success. Just lots of really cool things going on. So Maria, I'll get Fran to follow up with you.
I'm glad that you're going to follow up with Maria, but
Now I have to follow up with you.
Yeah. Well, to me, what this cries out about is that people should be able to call the state and get a live person on the phone and resolve this problem without calling into the governor.
They just did.
Well, no, they called into the governor.
They did. But I'm a live person working for the
This
state.
is about good government. This
Yeah.
is about government functions. Like, you've got this problem. Clearly, you see it immediately as a problem that needs to be fixed.
Sure.
It should be a quick phone call to the state public works
I'm-
department or
I'm-
whatever it is.
I'm not going to tear my rotator cuff by patting myself on the back, but I think we've been pretty good at this. Honestly, I mean, this is obviously and by the way, listen, vegetation management, which I think Maria was alluding to in terms of why these trees have been cut back, and it's not.
Well, there's a borer beetle.
Well, that may be a separate.
That's
but
what's killing them.
Yeah, but I also thought she was referencing that
I don't know.
you had
Maybe.
public utilities. Any event.
Oh yeah.
So if you're looking for a silver lining here, not the borer beetle, by the way, but public utilities is a like storm hitting us today versus 8 years ago. We'll have a lot fewer outages because we've forced the utilities in many cases to be much more aggressive on vegetation management. Vegetation management is basically eliminating the big branch of the tree that's hanging 6 inches above the power line. So if it's done right, there's a good result. This obviously sounds like it's a mess, or at least looks like a mess. So we will follow up.
Okay, let's try to squeeze in one more call before the break. We have Walter from Rutgers Newark University.
Hello,
on the
Walter.
line.
How you doing, Governor?
Great.
I want to start out by saying that you've been a great governor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're welcome to stop it right there, Walter, if you'd like.
Well, I want to start it on a high note, but I have a serious question.
Please.
I live in Union County, in Union County, and I'm a retired 18-wheeler driver. So I'm state to state, but right now I'm driving a shuttle bus out of Rutgers University here in North. So I'm all over the place.
Yep.
And I interact with a lot of buses all day. And what I don't understand is the taxes that we pay in Jersey. I think one of the highest tax paying state in the country, if not the highest. You know, why the state hasn't invested back into the equipment. I go to other states and the equipment, you know, is well maintained. They keep upgrading the equipment. They're more high tech. Our buses, you got the panels falling off them. You know, they're rusty. They don't even wash them no more.
Walter, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have to go to a break. And when we come back, the governor will address your question. So we'll be back in 1 minute. This is Ask Governor Murphy. I'm Nancy Solomon.
You're listening to Ask Governor Murphy, a co-production of WBGO, WNYC, and WHYY. Got a question for New Jersey's governor? You can call us at 844-745-8255. That's 844-745-TALK. Or pose your question on X or Facebook with the hashtag AskGovMurphy.
I'm Nancy Solomon, and we are live with Governor Phil Murphy. And we had a call from Walter, a bus driver, I believe, from Rutgers,
Shuttle
Newark.
bus, yep.
And so he described the poor condition of buses and the problems. So let's address that.
So a couple of things. Walter, very good to hear from you. By the way, my late brother and late father named Walter, so that's a middle name of our oldest son. So that's a great name in our household. I will ask Rob Field again. I'm going to ask Rob to follow up with you, Walter. I don't know the specifics of I assume these are Rutgers shuttle buses. Rutgers has historically had high quality infrastructure, so I'm not sure. We'll try to help you get to the bottom of that. As a broader matter, and I guess NJ Transit would be the best example because it's the third largest public transit system in America and far and away the biggest in the state. You know, I'm proud of the fact that we have right now on order an entire new fleet of rail cars and buses that will come in over the next 5 years. So I don't know that any other state in America can say that, honestly. That is a massive capital investment. It's a massive upgrade in terms of everything from comfort and convenience to safety and environmentally friendly. So again, I'm proud of that. I don't know the specifics on the Rutgers Newark shuttle buses, but I'll get Rob on the case. And I'll ask Maggie and Steph to keep me honest on that, and we'll go from there.
Okay, let's take another question from social media. David Matthau.
Hi, yes. David.
Hi. Hello again. Governor, we have another transportation-related question. This one is from Roger in Middletown. He says, Governor Murphy, what are the plans to manage increasing traffic congestion on our highways? It's no longer just a shore traffic thing. We need a plan to reduce traffic and improve mass transit. How about a tram or bus service using a dedicated lane on the parkway?
You could get that done by January 20th, couldn't you?
I'm not sure about that. I missed the gentleman's first name.
This gentleman's first name is Roger.
Roger from Middletown.
Correct.
Your neighbor.
Let the record show he's probably right down the street. Roger, Rob Field, who's a dear friend of mine and a colleague, will probably never speak to me again, but I'm going to ask Rob to follow up with Roger as well. I'm wearing up my welcome on Rob, who I love. Roger's premise is absolutely right. There's really good news in New Jersey, and there's a real responsibility that goes with that really good news. I drove down from my Newark office to meet you guys down here just now. It was just a sea of cars. And it was drizzling when I walked in tonight, but it wasn't drizzling then. So we have more people living in the state than ever before. We have more people employed, more businesses in operation. We are booming. And that's good news, particularly in the context of a lot of choppiness in the country at large, in the world at large. All of that's really good. The game plan is working. We're not without issues. Affordability continues to be a big challenge that we throw enormous amounts of resources into. But when you've got an all-time high of everything, you need roads that work, trains, buses, you need seats in schools, you need housing. We should talk about housing, affordable housing in particular. On and on and on. And I would say, Roger, color me open-minded to anything that could relieve some of the congestion and pressure. Fran O'Connor, I mentioned him a few minutes ago, our commissioner of the Department of Transportation, is doing a great job. And I committed, as an example, because there's a safety issue here as well, we committed that we would address the 10 most dangerous intersections in the state. I don't have the list in front of me, but Fran completed that work by October. We said we'd do that this calendar year. So there's a safety element. There's not just convenience. Having mass transit as easy, accessible, reliable as possible is a huge magnet to pull folks off the road into trains and buses. This whole notion of President Trump using the Gateway project as a political cudgel and saying it's frozen or whatever his words were, terminated. I mean, come on. The rail tunnels, the 2 rail tunnels under the Hudson were finished in 1911, damaged over the years, not surprisingly, particularly in Superstorm Sandy, which we've discussed. This project would be to build 2 new rail tunnels and then rehab the other 2. You'd have 4. It's a game changer. You've got 1-seat rides at stake from communities that are begging for it, like Westfield, to pick an example. You've got safety implications. You've got GDP riding on the rails implicated. You know, everything you would imagine. So
I don't disagree with you because I'm a big fan of the Gateway project, of the idea that we need more capacity for trains going into New York. But so much of the conversation seems often to be about commuting into New York, which is a big feature of life in Northern Jersey. But South Jersey is really lacking in mass transit. And this idea of, you know, the Parkway is sort of a perfect road in the sense of the way it cuts across the state.
Right.
Yet, you know, if you could put more lanes, then they would be full. So we have to have mass transit. Mass transit's the only way out of this dilemma.
So let's talk about South Jersey for a minute, because that's a very fair point. Everything I've said about North Jersey, my guess is you'd broadly be in agreement with. It's a big game changer. And not everybody goes into New York City, which I get, which is why we've got very thick rail and bus routes in the central and northern part of the state, because people in many cases are working for companies or going to schools that are in New Jersey. South Jersey has lagged. There's just no 2 ways about it. We have done everything we can to push back on that. So just some things that we're doing. The Walter Rand Transportation Center, which is the big hub in Camden, we have committed to an entire renovation and reimagination of that. We finally got the early stages, at long last, I'm blessing myself, of the light rail from Glassboro to Camden finally kicking off. We announced a couple of months ago at $5 million toward an EDS and MEDS looping of buses from some of the really important both educational and medical / healthcare hubs. We put in a pilot program that I think will be more than a pilot, although that'll be Mikey's call, from Vineland up to Atlantic City to bring a lot of the Cumberland County workers into Atlantic County. Some of those are small steps. Some of them are big steps. In a perfect world, I'd love to see, you know, more steps, but those are steps that no other administration has taken, I might add. And we'll run through the tape. We only have X number of days left, but this will continue to be a priority. In the meantime, I'll ask my former friend Rob Field, who's probably not speaking to me, to follow up with Roger of Middletown.
Okay, let's take another call. We have Tom from Cranford on the line.
Hello, Tom.
Good evening, Governor. Best wishes for the future.
Thank you.
Listen, I'd like to talk to you before you leave about the Rahway River Basin. You've visited Cranford numerous times, post damage by different hurricanes, major storms, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, we're still in the same position that we were 8 years ago. The Army Corps of Engineers has kind of fallen flat on it. And obviously, with the current administration in Washington, we won't see anything for the next 3.5+ years on any mitigation to the Rahway River Basin. Any help before you leave in the last 2 months from the DEP to possibly stoke this up a little bit, at least on a state level, if we can't depend on our federal partners?
That's a great question, Tom, and I can't argue for 1 second with the premise. I'm going to ask our Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection, Sean LaTourette, to give you a shout. Sean's done a great job and I know he cares deeply about this. The real buzzkill here is the Army Corps, and I'm a big fan of the Army Corps, so that's not quote unquote their fault, but they're overrun with priorities, and the Trump administration has, to say they've deprioritized their funding, I think would be an understatement, a dramatic understatement. And because again, like so many other things, everything from this example to Medicaid to SNAP or food stamps, you fill in the blank. The federal government plays an existentially and irreplaceable role, both the manpower, the technology, and most importantly, the funding. Can we do anything, Tom, between now and January 20? We'll keep trying. We have stayed on the Army Corps. Again, this is going to sound critical of them. It's far less critical of them than the resources that they're being given to work with. And Tom, you'll appreciate the fact that it's the Rahway River Basin, so it's inland flooding. Manville's another town I've visited where this is a sad reality in these big storms.
Greenbrook.
You betcha. Greenbrook is another one.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also got the erosion along our shore. Now, to give you a little kernel of hope, and maybe Fran O'Connor can partner up with Sean LaTourette when they call you. We did, Diane Scacchetti, our former great head of the Department of Transportation, we did come up with a kind of a out-of-the-box solution for North Wildwood's beach replenishment a couple of years ago. Sadly, they've given a lot of that back to Mother Nature since then, but we got it. So we sort of found a workaround using state resources. Maybe there's a play there that we could run. But Tom, I'll get Sean at a minimum to follow up with you, and let's see what we could do. In the meantime, Godspeed.
Thanks for your call, Tom. And I'm going to try to squeeze in one more caller in the show, but I want to quickly rip through short answers from you, rip through some of the other items that we're expecting to see during the lame duck session. Banning cell phones in schools.
A bell-to-bell ban is among, if not the highest priority that I've got in the lame duck.
Okay. Farmland tax.
I hope
cut.
So
so
our
this
friend
is the
Jack.
property. Yes, for Jack Curtis.
Yeah.
This is the property tax break meant for farmers, but abused by McMansion owners and Donald Trump's golf course and summer home. Are we going to see something?
I hope so. I want to do that, and Jack knows that. And I'm hoping. I feel like we've slipped a little bit of the legislative side on this one, but we still want to see this. It just isn't right. It isn't fair. And frankly, most importantly, it isn't fair to the real farmers in the state who are doing the Lord's work, actually farming.
Yeah. Affordable housing.
I hope so. We've got 4. There's a package of 4, I believe 4 housing bills that we've been high on for a while, including converting commercial space into residential, the dwelling units that you can have your mother-in-law or your rent out of ADUs.
Auxiliary dwelling. Yep.
I always forget the acronym. Some permitting reform. I'd like to see. We continue to have an acute shortage of affordable housing in the state.
Anything going to happen on parole violation reform, the technical things that send people back to prison?
I hope so. We came out about 9 months ago with a version of this. It's been tweaked a fair amount. It's still something conceptually we want to see done.
Okay. That was very good. You
And I was
answered those
short.
so quickly.
Gosh darn it, we could take 10 more calls now.
Let's go to Frank in Sparta.
Hello, Frank.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Good, man.
Just want to say I live in Sparta, but I'm an educator in Essex County. Big fan of Nancy there in Soma.
Oh, thank you.
So I just want to say, we have many educators who were very nervous on Election Day. And we want to thank you, first of all, for your commitment to the pension and everything you've done over the past 8 years. However, what about our young teachers? We're thinking about at our grade high school of creating a program to really bring in young people into the teaching field. And it's hard for me to promote it when we have such tiers in our pension. Do you think in the lame duck session, you'll go further into pension reform for educators?
Frank, first of all, good to hear from you, and thank you for choosing such a great calling as an educator. This is a big one. This was part of the reforms that occurred before I got here. And, you know, the math, Steve Beatty, who's the new NJEA president, Kevin Kelleher, his executive director, sat with me and my chief of staff a couple of weeks ago, and we went over a whole range of issues. This is a big one. And the math is daunting if you're a young educator entering the field, as Frank has pointed out, and sort of doing the math on when you sort of ultimately have any sort of a nest egg. And it just doesn't feel right. So as I said to Steve, Frank, I'm going to ask Emmy Quispe, who I've mentioned several times tonight, if both Maggie and Steph could help me there, to follow up with you. The problem is not that it's conceptually we don't get it. We get it completely. And we have a shortage of two areas. We have a shortage right now that rise above all else, and that is educators and healthcare workers, particularly nurses, frontline nurses. So we are with you 1,000% in getting them to come in. The problem is it is a big, big financial ticket. And in a time of, I don't know if I call it complete chaos in Washington, but let's say a lot of volatility in Washington and staring down the barrel of Medicaid cuts to come that are measured in the billions, and a federal administration that chose literally sitting there with $6 billion to not spend it on hungry Americans, in some cases starving Americans, 800,000 of whom live in New Jersey, who rely on that. Stepping up to a big ticket, knowing that there's that kind of volatility, is the issue. That's not hell no, but that's the challenge. The challenge is not that we don't get the problem. We get it completely and we understand it completely.
Are you going to be passing off a list of unfinished issues to Mikey Sherrill, to her transition team, that are like, these are the things that we see as problems that we have yet to be able to fix?
Or opportunities, journeys that we've been on that we haven't quite finished. Yeah, we've got a great dialogue with Mikey. Literally the morning after the election, she and Alex Ball, her incoming chief of staff, and Tim Hillman on my team and I met, and we are wide open, and communication could not be better. And as I mentioned, by the way, that morning, there would have been that meeting no matter who won. This was about peaceful transition of power. And unlike some episodes we've seen in Washington, we were going to do it right in Jersey. Now, you add to that, I'm thrilled personally, and I think it's absolutely the right decision for the state of New Jersey that Mikey and Dale won. But the answer is yes. We're an open book. Look at the World Cup final will happen with all the work we put into that. We won't be here. 250th anniversary of the birth of our country, to pick two other. But then there's the other sort of ongoing stuff.
Do you still get to sit in the governor's box for the World Cup final, since it's your jam?
I don't know about that, but I hope to be in the stadium. Let's put it that way. Nice to be back with you guys, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's
two more to go.
That's it. We got two more to go, and that is it for tonight. You've been listening to Ask Governor Murphy, a co-production of WBGO, WHYY, and WNYC. Thanks very much to the team. We had Matt Mirando here with us tonight and all the regulars. I'm Nancy Solomon. This is Ask Governor Murphy.